Couple days ago, Kanye dropped his long-awaited album, Vultures 2. It sucked. It's unfinished, poorly mixed, and some of the samples are literally downloaded off of YouTube. And after a few days of sitting on this album, I've just grown angry. It always seems to me like no matter how mentally unstable and reckless with his own personal life Kanye is, he'd never be as lazy and careless with his music. In my opinion, Kanye's best album came out in the middle of his 2018 mental breakdown. And that was something I went into Vultures 1 with, and as choppy and weird sounding as the production and mixing of that album was, I still came out of it relatively happy with the product. I never really talked about the album publicly because, well, frankly, the well of discussion around Kanye is so utterly poisoned, any discussion is futile. And you know what? Before someone comments it, yeah, what I'm doing right now is a little shitty. I've only become passionately angry at Kanye's behavior once he stopped feeding me as a consumer. There's no rebuttal or justification for it, that's just what I'm doing. However, I will say this. Kanye has seemed to create this cult around him in real life and online, a group of people who are so unwaveringly in love with the past of this so-called genius that anything he does is justified. And saying this here isn't like a new talking point. Fantano is still talking about this to this day. Vultures 2 to me was the point of no return for Kanye. See, throughout Kanye's career, he has a trend of fucking up really bad and slowly building his reputation back up through his work. He did it with Taylor Swift and Dark Fantasy, and after his very unstable mental state from 2016 to 2018, he would release multiple critically acclaimed albums. The difference between Kanye then and now is, then he was redeemable. He was a dick to Taylor Swift? Cool, bro, I made an 8-minute video being a dick to her. He said slavery was a choice? Yeah, but he made Ghost Town, so... Truth is, there's a level of fucking up that is redeemable with just feeding the consumer cog. How many YouTubers do you know that have been exposed really bad and still have an audience because, well, people don't give a fuck as long as they're being entertained. But I don't think Kanye has become unredeemable because of his actions specifically. Matter of fact, he still has a lot of the same audience. Lord knows I listened to Vultures 2 day of release. It's just that Kanye has made it impossible to separate the art from the artist. I had this discussion on my Discord server, feel free to join. But Vultures 1 is undeniably an anti-Semitic body of work, no matter how you cut it. Now, to be fully honest, I have multiple songs from Vultures on my playlist, because in these songs, Kanye is able to keep his racist views out of that specific song. But when it comes to the big picture of the album itself, it is anti-Jewish. He literally calls himself an anti-Semite on the album, and instead of actually refuting against anyone who calls him anti-Semitic, he just makes off-color jokes to double down. Frankly, I don't think Kanye is anti-Semitic, as in I don't literally think he hates Jewish people, but I think his words and actions have created a cult around him, and he has become a mascot for anti-Semitic circles on the internet. But there are a ton of people who agree with me. Kanye's a bad person and his art pushes his awful beliefs. There are aspects of his art that don't, and if we find that enjoyable, we're going to enjoy it, which is why despite everything, Kanye's Carnival went #1. And normally that wouldn't be a bad thing, but unfortunately Kanye will and has just taken this as another reason to keep the same camp of people around him, and from what it seems like with Vultures 2, try less because he knows his fanbase will still listen to him. He's becoming what everyone hates about Drake. He's playing it risk averse when frankly this is the time in his career where he needs to be taking as many risks as possible. Vultures, despite its success, is consensusly known as Kanye's worst album. But because of it not only being a moderate commercial success, but Kanye's first independent commercial success, it's given him every reason in his head to delay his next album by almost 6 months just to release an album that's still somehow unfinished. Vultures, and even more Vultures 2, is just Kanye bouncing from topic to topic saying whatever insane thought comes to his head, which leads to the grossly over-sexual lyrics of both projects. Looking at Instagram lives and any sort of documentation of the making of these two last albums shows that Kanye has a group of people around him that are just using him for his fame and are enabling his manic behavior. But at the same time, Kanye is also using these same people. Like, ever since the Vultures trilogy was announced, Ty Dolla $ign has become this sort of cheerleader for Kanye. It goes around saying, yeah, the album's coming out soon, guys. Kanye is just such a genius. It could be done any day. He's just so smart and he needs it to be just perfect. I'm making assumptions here, but he's very clearly not as involved in the project as most artists who make collaboration albums. Very clearly, everything in the album is run through Kanye, and he just accepts it because, well, it's Kanye. There are even rumors that on some Vultures 2 songs where Kanye is singing, it's just Ty Dolla $ign's vocals ran over a Kanye AI filter, which is crazy if it's true because it literally just proves Kanye doesn't give two shits about Ty as an artist. He just has the voice Kanye wishes he had. He's so uninvolved in the making of of the album that 2 months into the record being delayed, he's doing predator catching strays with Vitali. This all reminds me of that 2016 J. Cole song, False Prophet. It was a single released by Cole where throughout the song's verses, he talks about many unnamed rappers in the industry and their personal and public problems. In the first verse of the song, Cole talks about a past his prime, washed up rapper who's incredibly mentally unstable and is surrounded by yes men, causing him to dissolve into degeneracy. It's been speculated for years that this verse is about Kanye. Now, in 2016, which was the start of Kanye's mental breakdown, would have fit, but would be a stretch for some things, like Cole implying that Kanye is washed up. I mean, he released Life of Pablo in 2016. I wouldn't call him washed up by any means. But as the years move on, and with this new era of Kanye's musical career, the verse has begun to slip onto Kanye like a glove. It describes Kanye in the modern day perfectly, except for the line, "What's more important is that he's crying out for help." Because I don't think Kanye is wanting help anymore. I think he's just realized how to make a camp of people who will constantly stroke his ego. He knows he can just say controversial things and people will get mad and others will call him a misunderstood genius. And he also knows he can just release music without any quality and people will listen to it. But I don't think he understands that people like me will see through the facade very easily the second he stops feeding the consumer machine. And that brings us to the biggest problem with Kanye. To introduce this segment of the video, I'll just show this very famous clip of Kanye at TMZ.
I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. And frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real.
Kanye is undeniably a music genius, but when it comes to actually being an intellectual or a philosopher, Kanye is no better than Sneeko. That sounds insane, but listen to me for a second. I think, like Sneeko, Kanye knows he's smart and has a general feeling of dissatisfaction with the world politically. So he clings on to anything that makes a little sense with no critical thought, and frankly, dude, he's worse than Sneeko. Because if you've ever watched one of his presidential run speeches, or many of his rants at TMZ, the guy just boils down to saying whatever makes the crowd happy. If you're a Kanye diehard who, to this day, stood by everything he's done and still believes him to be a genius, please tell me Kanye's philosophical or political beliefs. I mean, the guy ran for president. Tell me his beliefs on foreign policy or taxes or the school system. What does Kanye think about socialism? How would Kanye lower America's obesity rates or help with the cost of living crisis? What the fuck does he believe? I don't know, man. With every antic Kanye pulls, every lazy song he releases, and with every day spent around the blood-sucking mosquitoes surrounding his environment, he becomes more disillusioned. And I think it's too far gone for him to get any help or get any better. I really hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But who am I to know? Let me know what you think. I'd love to continue this discussion in the comments.